Now, I'm assuming that you're here because it feels impossible to grow on social media these days, and that might be closer to the truth than what you think. But then you find yourself watching a bunch of these videos titled similarly to this one to hear a bunch of just regurgitated vague information that's been repeated to you since 2018 with no real solutions. And it's a matter of fact that these social media gurus they're just lying to you. Or, well, they're doing one of two things. They're either lying to you or they just straight up don't know what they're talking about. I've watched a ton of these videos myself, and it really does get frustrating just wasting your time hearing someone yap. So today I'm going to give you a few truths on some things that I've learned that no one really seems to be talking about or be willing to be open about. And I don't love that some of these are true, but you sleep in the bed you make, you know? So I'll just breeze through some of the really overly repeated stuff very quickly in case you do need to hear it for the first time or hear it again. But if you want me to elaborate on any of these things, just leave a comment below and I'll get back to you, or even consider making like a full video on that topic. Also, if any of these tips do help you out or you just appreciate the honesty, please also just leave a comment and let me know. Leave a like, hit the subscribe button. It's all free and it helps me a lot. So first up, and I'm sorry photographers, I feel your pain. Photos are useless. Only post videos. And on your videos, your hooks need to be improved. If you've improved them, they still need improving. You literally need to hook someone in the first second of watching your video. Just imagine how you scroll. That's how everybody else is scrolling. And there's ways that you can do this. From there, you also need to change scenes in your video every 1 to 3 seconds, whether it to be jump cuts or new scenes entirely. Just whatever. Be looking at your follower base, age, gender, etc. Don't be promoting the right thing to the wrong crowd. And something no one really seems to mention is that your demographic will actually change on different social media. So be aware of that, and if you have to, tailor your content accordingly. And something you hear all the time as well is post at peak time for your user base. You need to go into your analytics to figure this out. What I found that mostly works for me is just sometime in the evening when people are getting home from work. They're either on the train or on the bus, or they're at home settling down after dinner and they're able to watch the stuff that you've just recently posted. And as a bonus tip, if for example you're in an English-speaking country, try to figure out a peak time that might work in multiple English-speaking countries. For example, in the UK and the US, or Australia and the US. Okay, now to the real stuff. I brushed over it before, but don't use static content, aka pictures. No one cares about nice pictures anymore. At best, people are going to click like on it and move on. You need to be making videos. And again, if you're a photographer or a painter or something like that who produces static images, that means you need to be making videos about those photos and videos about those paintings. If you do insist on putting up some photos or some paintings, and this can be useful for artists and also brands, at least use the carousel feature at best. And if you're going to go that route, I would recommend maybe about 10% of your posts being photos. Get creative also, because the standard stuff just doesn't cut it anymore. Be very intentional about using photos, and by that I mean be very intentional about why it's not a video. 2, you have to be giving something. 2 of the most popular examples of this are information or humor, though I'd argue that humor is a lot more harder to use and a lot more difficult to inspire someone to actually follow you unless you're like a dedicated meme page or something like that. So I would stick to information, stick to what you know, but this also includes things like giveaways, etc. What are the things that you know about your niche now, but were very hard to find information on when you were trying to get into it? That's what people are looking for, and that's what they're interested in. We all have enough nice things to look at. And if you're just sharing your nice work and your success, but there's a large portion of people that are actually just going to kind of resent you for your success and the fact that you're not sharing it. You have to provide value. It can be personal struggles or 5 things I wish I knew before, etc., etc. And you can use the analytics again to find what demographic you're talking to for a lot better success in this. Think about what advice you might offer a 20-year-old versus a 40-year-old. These things can change about how you're going to deliver that information. Over the years, I've posted a ton of nice photography to my socials, and these were when these apps were still photo sharing apps, and even then, no one cares. But the moment that I offered free photo shoots, I got 250,000 views on multiple platforms and thousands of comments. And consider that I'm at a disadvantage because I'm in a country where I make English speaking content in a country where English isn't the native language. I gave value for free. And again, don't forget, people don't care how well you're doing or what nice things you made. Some of them will be envious and selfish. I don't say that to be judgmental, but this is social media, it's the internet. We all know how people are. Just trying to be real with you. And if that's anywhere to 10 to 20% of people, or potentially even more, that's a large group of people that are viewing your content to miss out on. And unfortunately, tapping into that, you need to make debatable content. If you're not already giving value and humor, you really need to give people a reason to argue in the comments. Comments, saves, and shares are the current most valuable metric that you can get on social media. And this is one of those ones I hate, but I know it to be true at this point. Positive content or just nice content performs nowhere near as well as inflammatory content. Happy people engage far less than upset people because happy people are often more in control of their emotions and don't feel the need to argue with people on the internet. It's basic human psychology, and it's something that if you understand, you can use it if you want to. And so unfortunately, I would suggest that around 50% of your content would be stuff that people can argue about in the comments. You do have to be careful with this though, that you don't become too confrontational or alienate your fan base or get to a point where no brands want to work with you. I can't tell you what that's going to be for your specific niche, but I'd suggest you gear that more towards inanimate objects and tastes and opinions and brands rather than specific groups of people for obvious reasons. But for example, something like, why is it that whenever I drive my Ford, I feel better than driving my Subaru? You're not targeting anybody, but people are going to debate it. It is really unfortunate that this is the way that social media is now, but you need those comments, shares, and saves, otherwise your posts are going to fail. Another little side tactic is to leave little random things in your video and then not acknowledge them because people will bring it up in the comments, or even intentionally mispronounce something because people are going to correct you in the comments. I do like these approaches though, like even though it feels a little bit disingenuous, you can get creative with it and no one really gets their feelings hurt. Next up is bots, automation, and AI. These people, these gurus, these people with these huge accounts, they have networks and they use things like bots, automation, and AI. This is just a really good reason to not compare yourself to these people online and to believe in these videos that you're getting shown on YouTube. It was literally a decade ago that I actually infiltrated groups like this, and they use things like Telegram and Telegram coded bots to boost posts onto things like Explorer pages. And yes, it kind of works, although in the long run, the engagement is not great. And of course, you're breaking TOS and you do risk things like getting your account banned. I definitely don't recommend it, but the reason why I bring up how long ago it was I infiltrated it, this has been going on for a long, long time and it's still going on. And the people that have been benefiting from it have been benefiting from it for over a decade in some cases. You're not going to beat them, but more importantly, stop comparing yourself to them. You're never going to grow as much without using these tactics, but you can grow. And when you grow, it will be with real people, and real people mean real customers, etc. For those people, often the customer is just looking at the numbers. So they're bolstering their accounts because for them it pays off, but it's definitely not something you should be chasing. The other thing that those accounts also might have, and it's something that you could even do yourself, and you can do this in an ethical way, is, you know, those pages that are like best travel tips or something like that, and they just share content from multiple different creators. Well, they own those pages. There are networks of people who might even own 4, 5, 6 of those, and they use them to promote their own content. And if you're not in that inner network, you can also get posted on there, but they will charge you a fee, and that fee they can just put straight back into their marketing budget, which is the other thing that they have. A big marketing budget. And so on that note, pretty obvious, would be nice to have one, right? But maybe a little less obvious is that your popular content, you should use the ads and the paid boost features. And you don't really want to do this at the beginning, especially if you're new to this, because there's no point in paying to boost average content. And again, if you're new, even though you might think it's good, it is average content. Unless it goes crazy viral or something, and in that case, well, congrats. But anyways, new or not, you need to get to that point where you're able to make a viral piece of content and let that go viral organically. Obviously, it's free marketing. There's people going to be coming in, you're going to get follows, you're going to get comments, you're going to get shares, all that good stuff. But eventually that's just going to curb off. It might take quite a while if the thing goes quite viral. But yeah, eventually you'll get to a point where it's basically getting no views and no extra comments. And it's at that point that you want to turn that into an advert or a paid boost post, etc. Because the thing is, you know that piece of content works. It's just kind of out of the algorithm now, but you can add a bit of fuel onto that fire. And especially if you leave it like a year or two, people are going to forget that piece of content even exists, and they might even interact with it more than once. So once you're able to get that viral piece of content, learn how to make a good ad, hit it with some of that marketing budget, and don't do any of this before you have a marketing budget. Next thing we want to do is to be professional and be organic. Split your content up 50-50 between these two. What's on trend is always changing, and right now we're in like a very organic patch because everybody's pretty tired of being advertised to. And even if it's just a good, well-produced piece of content, it looks like an ad to people and people are just fatigued from it. And again, you might even still lose that 10 to 20% of people who are just upset that you make cool stuff. Kind of runs on that theory of no one likes the smartest person in the room. But as I say, it's always changing. Keep an eye on it. In the next 6 months to a year, it could do a complete reversal. So yeah, you want to do both. There's a couple of demographics of people. There are people who like the really just highly produced content and they couldn't care less about who you are. And then there's other people who just They like your stuff, but they're far more interested in your own personal journey. You want to hit both of those groups. You also want to remain still brand reliable and obviously showcase some of your best work. And also then you might sort of hit a little bit of the older audience, like people who enjoy more mature content, but you also want to leave yourself some space to be you. And again, share some of your personal things. You might hit a younger audience, but in general, just people who are interested in you being you. And kind of on that note, about 10 to 20% of your posts should be a trend. And I know that sounds horrible to a lot of you artists out there. Brands can get away with it a little bit easier, but find the thing that you're comfortable doing, find the thing that's in a trend, and figure out how that fits into your niche. Usually it's not very hard. Just do the stuff that you're comfortable with doing. It can bring so much views if they, go well. No one's going to remember you did it in 3 weeks, but it could net you tens or hundreds of thousands of views. So it's going to be totally worth it. Some of them might even be kind of fun, and a lot of them you can actually learn stuff from when recreating them. And finally, one that I think should be pretty obvious, but I never really hear people talk about it. If you're asking the question, how can I grow on Instagram? The answer is TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Don't try to grow on Instagram. Grow on all of these platforms. There will be a lot of cross followers going on, but more importantly, you're going to reach different demographics. I don't know if I made this super clear, but there are very different demographics on different platforms, and you want to be hitting all of them. Even if you think your stuff is marketed towards a younger audience, there are parents on other platforms that'll buy your stuff for their kids. Most of the stuff that you make anyways for the one platform can be very easily cross-posted across all things. Again, keep your eye on the demographic if you want to tailor it a little bit better, but that can just mean rewriting a caption or something like that. And so that about does it for today. I can elaborate on all of these things even more so at length, but obviously I wanted to keep the video relatively short. If you appreciated the honesty, if you want to hear more on a particular topic, or you have any questions, please do leave a comment below. I've always been pretty open and honest on this channel, and I want to work myself towards being more open and honest about stuff that people aren't talking about, especially when it comes to things like growing on social media and the mythos of being a creator for a living. So if you look forward to that kind of content, go ahead and hit that sub button, share this video with a friend, whatever you got to do. I appreciate it. Until next time, peace.